how much longer would you be my baby?
All right, I'm curious. How many people in the room remember the commercial that song was connected to not that long ago? Anybody? Okay, if you recognize the California Raisins in that song, or when you hear that song, that's what you think about, you are officially old. Like me, you're with me. I can't hear that song and not picture that commercial. You know, we all know what the grapevine is, right? It's the rumor mill. It's the gossip train. Did you hear what they said? Did you hear that so-and-so did such and such with so-and-so? Did you hear about it? But did you verify it? Do we know that they actually said that thing that you think they said? Have you ever been misquoted or misquoted someone else? In fact, I want to share with you some quotes and see if you can tell me who said these famous lines. The first one, you ready? It's interactive. We're going back to school, so we're going to take a quiz. Here we go. I have a dream. Martin Luther King Jr., that's right, okay. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Neil Armstrong, thank you. All right, let them eat cake. Well, here's the thing. So, Marie Antoinette is often quoted as saying that, but actually we first find that statement in a writing called Confessions by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It was written in 1765, 1767, and he's writing about a princess that says, let them eat brioche. And about that time, Marie Antoinette would have been about 9 to 12 years old, living in Austria, and had never been to France. So scholars think she pretty much did not say this. But it fit the narrative because she was supposed to be elitist and detached. And so it stuck with her. I've got another one. Are you ready? Okay. A house divided against itself cannot stand. So this happened in first service too. You're scared because you got the last one wrong. And that's okay. I get it. But just try. Don't worry. No judgment here. Abraham Lincoln. Well, here's the thing. How many of you have ever seen these billboards? Or how many of you have been to the Hall of Presidents in Disney World in Florida? Okay, so here, when I went to that experience, I sat down and I heard wax figure president after wax figure president after wax figure president say their most famous line. And we get to wax figure Lincoln, and he animatronically says, a house divided against itself cannot stand. That's apparently how wax figure Lincoln talks. Which I am a big Lincoln fan. And he did say that in his House Divided speech, but I just don't think that quote is fairly attributed to him because the quote actually comes from Jesus, which was a little before Lincoln, when Jesus says, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or a house divided against itself shall not stand. And you can find it in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. See, we've all been misquoted or quoted someone else and then it gets taken in its own direction. We've all been on the grapevine accidentally or intentionally. Like we've all been a part of this. We can all get caught up in gossip. We're in part 2 of our series this morning called Responsibility, just looking at the ability that we have to be aware of our responses, to choose our responses. And last week, Jordan talked about how our inputs actually determine our outputs. That the reality is if we can approach conversations and situations with generosity and curiosity, not only is that countercultural, but it actually is transformative in our relationships. And so this morning, I want to have an honest conversation about how difficult it can be to speak honestly of others. And not actually, I don't think it's actually because we intend to. I think it's more because we can all get caught up in the telephone game. You guys remember the telephone game? Where you start a message on one end of a circle, it makes its way around, it gets a little, wonky all throughout, and then you're laughing by the time in the end. So just in case you forgot, we're going to play it. So here's how it works. You give someone a message, and then because they're going to make sure it's accurate, they're going to translate that message all around just to be sure it's shared correctly. Now, I feel like if you sit in the front row, You've been here for a while. And here's why, because we can see you. And we know if you're awake every Sunday. So I feel like there's like a base level of trust. So we are going to play the telephone game this morning. Are you ready? Okay. Thank you, Reese. Okay. I'm going to give you this message. Please don't let him see it. And then I'm going to give it to you for a second. Just kind of commit it to memory. And then you can just start passing that along whenever you are ready with your words all the way across. And let's see how we do. That's a long one. It's like maybe 7, 10 words. You counted. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. See, gossip's already started. I said 7. She says 15. This is how this works. All right. So as they are sharing, I think the reality is we can think that gossip is like a middle school girl issue, but I think it happens in our grown-up world all the time. And I actually think, or maybe I just hope, that it's not always intentional. In fact, I think, we actually just share information because we like to talk. There were a group of studies done by the social sciences and psychology research that shared that out of the words that we share and the gossip that we spread, actually 75% of it is just neutral information. It's just things like, hey, did you know that they moved buildings? Or hey, did you know that Greg broke his foot? And the study revealed that only 15% is actually malicious or intended to do damage. I hope you guys are doing great. But with all the words that we share in a given day, guys, 15% is still a lot. A study from the University of California said that the average person spends 52 minutes a day gossiping. So we like to talk, and we like to talk about each other, at least a little bit. So let's see how we did. Okay, can you? Oh, yeah, if you have to repeat it, it's going to be good. Can you just share that with me?
It's National Ice Cream Day.
I get. This is going to be fun. Just try it one more time. Minus giggling.
Okay.
You got it? You got it. I believe in you.
It's National Ice Cream Day.
Okay. I can't say that in front of all these people. Oh. We're in church. I'm just kidding. She said, so what she heard was it's National Ice Cream Day. Let's check that against the original message. You guys did better than first service. You just missed the fact that Jordan has to buy Buck and I ice cream, which I would call an epic fail if you guys. So that's a true statement right here on multiple levels. We're going to take a look this morning at gossip. The reality is, if you just we think about that clickbait, that you just had to get that piece of information about that athlete or that celebrity. Think about that little bit of information you heard at work that you were shocked by. Think about that phone call you got from that distant relative who's concerned about another distant relative. And if you don't think we gossip, just go to your HOA Facebook page and just look around. We like to be in the know. We like to make assumptions and share statements and share stories. And again, I just don't think it's all intended to be gossip the way that, in the negative way, but we end up telling stories that really don't belong to us and making a difference in the lives of others that's not always positive. Yes, some of the words we say are positive, but others are negative. And that's what we want to talk about today. Now, I want to kind of get a base level. I want to share with you how I'm defining gossip this morning. So when we say we talk for 52 minutes a day of gossip, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Gossip, for me this morning, is sharing information about someone who is not present in a way that unnecessarily damages, diminishes, or exposes them. Sharing information about someone who is not there to share their side of the story or confirm what you are saying, and in a way that causes damage in their lives, makes someone think poorly of them or just differently, or has to question them differently. And I want to look at what the Bible has to say about gossip, because I think the Bible is less concerned with what we label different ways that we speak and more concerned with what it does to others. Now, Jesus, when we share a spotlight on someone, we use words to spotlight someone, to highlight something. So sometimes we're using encouraging words to shine a spotlight on something good, but gossip shines a spotlight in a different way. And when we use gossip to highlight something in someone else's life, it actually ends up highlighting something in us. And this is what Jesus speaks to. That gossip, as much as we're trying to use it to shine light in some other area, it actually reveals something in us. Jesus says this in Matthew. Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Now, this is the same teaching that Jordan talked about last week. Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Now, this was a familiar Jewish teaching that would have been normal for Jesus to have heard. In fact, in the proverb, he would have read, above all else, guard your heart. For everything you do, which includes everything you say and every story that you share, flows from it. The Hebrew word that is often translated as gossip is rakil. And this word literally means like a talebearer or a peddler of rumors. In Hebrew thought, this would have been the person who kind of trades information about people for social currency. The person who tells everybody stories so that they look better or they are more in the know. Someone who uses information about others to benefit themselves. And the Old Testament repeatedly warns us about this dynamic. We read, do not go about spreading slander among your people. Do not go about as a talebearer among your people. A gossip betrays a confidence, so avoid anyone who talks too much. A gossip separates close friends. Without wood, a fire goes out, but without a gossip, a quarrel dies down. Now, we've all probably found ourselves as a talebearer or a peddler of rumors. Again, not always intentional. We've also probably been the victim of someone talebearing and peddling rumors about us. And that's what Jesus is concerned about. He's like, hey, when you do that, it's out of the overflow of your heart that you are sharing that information. It's out of the overflow of your heart that you're actually feeling like you need to say that about that person or make sure someone knows something about someone. I mean, we all kind of get stuck in this. We all get on the grapevine. We all can gossip because gossip makes us relatable. But the question is it responsible? Is that being responsible with our words? And Jesus is highlighting this. Hey, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Hey, you share stories. Hey, talebearer. Hey, peddler of rumors. You share stories because there's something going on inside you. There's an unmet need in you. That's why you feel the need to say all this stuff. And there's so many reasons that we try and use conversation in our relationship with people to meet needs that only really God can satisfy. But just a few. Maybe we end up talking about people because it gives us a sense of belonging. Like you and I will connect better if I can tell you that story about that person. Maybe it's more about significance. Knowing something about someone else can make us feel important, can make us feel in the know. Or maybe it's an insecurity or control. Maybe if I tell other people about them, I won't have to actually directly address the situation. Maybe it's validation. I need others to be on my team, to know that I am right, to agree with me. Maybe it's boredom. Can we just be honest? We live in a culture where drama and gossip is just entertaining. Maybe it's envy, self-protection. Gossip reveals something deeper inside us. And that's what Jesus is challenging his audience to consider. And our challenge for us still today is, hey, why do you talk that way about other people? Why did you tell that person that story that really actually even doesn't have anything to do with you? If you're like, I actually don't struggle with gossip, that's cool, Jen, I know we got to talk about it, but it's not really a thing for me, just in case it ever ends up maybe, possibly, potentially being a thing. I just want to give you some statements that might be an indicator you're about to gossip. Might start with, did you hear? It has to be with that lilt and the head thing too. Did you hear? Or, I heard about. Sometimes actually it ends up being like, I need to share a prayer request with you. Or maybe it's, I need to vent. I've just got to get this off my chest. Or I've got to process. Can you help me process? Now, let me say that I think seeking counsel and advice is super important in our world, right? You need to have good people around you, and you do need to process information. But when you go to someone to process with zero intention of ever actually talking to the person that you're actually processing about, that's not processing, that's gossip. And if someone is a good friend or a mentor or a guide, they are going to encourage you and challenge you to go talk to the person that you actually need to be talking to. That's what a good friend would do. Because the reality is when we share stories and we run around and we can say it's processing and we can say it's venting, but there's something else going on. Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Jesus is asking, do you know why you share those stories? Do you know why you share that information or why you talk about others? See, Jesus is aware that our words, our speech become the easiest diagnostic tool for your spiritual health. They become a tool to indicate what's going on in your heart. And for Jesus, this isn't just a conversation about like, hey, out of the overflow of the mouth. It's even bigger than that. He says this. He says, because everyone at some point, everyone will give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. He says empty words, sometimes it's translated as careless words. And those aren't all words. There are good words to use and good words to say, but he's saying, do you really pay attention to what you're saying? And if it's even useful, or is it empty? Are you not considering, are you being careless with what you say? Because what you say has power. What you say matters. Jesus is aware of this because in the Genesis 1, we read the account of creation, and it's actually God speaking, God saying things that brings everything into existence. And God said, let there be light. And God said, let there be land. And God said, let there be livestock. And God said, let there be man. And we, being made in God's likeness, actually create and build things with the stories that we tell and the words that we use. So there is power in what we are saying to and about other people. There's a saying that says the tongue kills 3 people: the one who speaks it, the one who receives it, and the one that is spoken about. The one who speaks it, because the reality is we all know that your gossip buddy has a gossip buddy. And if they are telling you about everything that everyone is doing, they are telling everyone about the things that you are doing as well. And if you struggle with that, it erodes trust. People will not be able to tell you things because they will know you will share things. It also makes the listener complicit. Because the reality is, once I tell you a story about someone else, you now own it. And you have to decide how you want to view that person or how you want to handle that situation. So it is possible that I give you information that you really never needed to carry, that really never belonged to you in the first place. And now you go, well, now I see that person differently. Now I think differently about that person. Or now I don't know how to show up in that situation or at that place. And then, of course, it does damage to the one that is spoken about. I have personally been impacted by rumors and gossip about me. People have made assumptions and said things about me that have blown my mind. And I have also gossiped. And I bet you everyone in this room has been impacted by something someone said about you that just wasn't true. The tongue kills 3 people: the one who speaks it, the one who receives it, and the one spoken about. Less poetically, but maybe a little more memorable, gossip's like glitter. It gets everywhere. And you can't really clean it up fully, and you still find parts of it forever. So, we know we're capable of gossiping. We know that gossip comes from the overflow of our heart, and that we are going to give an account for every careless and empty word. So what do we do with our potential word problem? Well, one of my favorite passages that I use in my life is from the Psalms. And it says this: set a guard over my mouth. Set watch over the gate of the door of my lips. Now, again, this reminds us, this isn't about not saying anything. This is about not saying empty and useless words. So a guard stands at a gate to let people in and out, but only after determining what is a threat and what is not. So the first thing we can maybe consider doing is just think before you speak. Slow down. Think before you speak. Don't share empty words. But it's also not silence. There are things we do need to say. There are encouraging things we need to share. Just the other Sunday, I was out in the lobby after being up here, and a woman approached me, and she said, hey, I just want to let you know what Jordan shared about you while standing out here in the lobby. I was like, okay, it's going to be good. And he said, yeah, she said, you were up there, and Jordan said, she's actually funny today. It's okay. I've already informed him I'm funny every day. He was confused. But then she went on to say, I just wanted to share that with you because I know we don't always hear the encouraging things and nice things that people say about us. Jordan's actually a very encouraging leader, but she's right. We don't use our words often enough this way. We see each other. I mean, sometimes I'll see Sal in the morning and I'll think, he looks really nice today, and I just will never say it, and I'll go about my life. Or I'll come home and I'll pull in the driveway and I'll think, I am so thankful for how hard he works to provide for us. And then I'll get in, rush, make dinner, and deal with other stuff. There are good words to say, and we need to say them. But there are other reasons, and there are other things we share, and I'm not sure that's not more often, that we need to think before we speak. Paul, a writer in the early church, says this: do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what builds others up. Is what you are about to share going to build something or destroy something? Are you going to cause a gap or a divide in a relationship, or tarnish someone's reputation or people's opinion of someone else? Or are you going to build someone up? So think before you speak. Figure out, do I need to say that nice thing that I'm thinking? Or do I need to not say that empty and careless thing? Another way I think we can set a guard at our mouth or put a gate on our lips is just to cut out the middleman. Just cut out the middleman. Jesus says it this way. He says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. This is his step-by-step, / is actually just one step. So his step-by-step gossip management system. That if something happens to someone, you hear about something to someone, someone offends you, just go directly to that person. Don't go around them. Don't talk about them. Just go right to that person. And this is so simple, yet we just struggle to do it. I struggle to do this. And if you think, well, no, I go directly to the person, I want you to think about that last time you were frustrated with your coworker. Who did you talk to about it? When was the last time that family member frustrated you or that friend irritated you? Who did you talk to about it? Did you go to that person? And Jesus doubles down on this idea when he's in the middle of having a conversation about handling yourself in court and when someone hates you. He says this, actually, if you're offering your gift at the altar and there you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, like, hey, if you go to church and you remember I've got some stuff going on with somebody, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled to them, and then come offer your gift. Jesus is saying, like, hey, I'm so thankful you show up for all the religious and generosity stuff. That's really important. But I also want you to be mindful and aware of your relationships, and the gap that you have between you and that person matters too, sometimes even more. I recognize we can't reconcile all relationships. There is a reality about safety in some of our relationships, and boundaries are real. But I think 9 times out of 10, we actually just didn't go directly to the person. And we're talking about them and all around them and not directly to them. The other reason I think we have to cut out the middleman is because they just are often wrong. And I think often not because they intend to, but it's more that by the time they heard the story about the situation and then they added their own bias to it, it just is wrong by the time it gets to you. They just don't have the whole story. And I say this because I have both been the wrong middleman and I have been a victim of a wrong middleman. Many years ago, Sal and I were leaders in student ministry, and we would take our students on a mission trip every summer. Now, and we would do this with a great volunteer team. And so a few years after I got out of student ministry, maybe 2 or 3 years, I was having dinner with a couple, and at the end of a delightful dinner, the husband says, hey, can I ask you something? Sure. I heard that a few years ago, you told the church you were going on a mission trip with students, and you lied, and you actually took them to the beach. And then you and all your volunteers went to the spa while they were at the beach. Well, that sounds lovely. Well, let's just sign up for that. We'll take 50 teenagers to the beach, and I'll just go sit in the spa. It's like, no, that didn't happen. And I kind of started to try and understand what had happened. What was funny is, we had, and I can remember the year that he was talking about. And that year we had gone to Bay St. Louis, Mississippi for a mission trip and spent 5 nights sleeping on air mattresses on the floor of a school. And then we get up in the daytime and do post-Katrina relief. And then we went over to Florida for a day. After we got done in Mississippi, we drove over to Florida, and we did go to the beach for the day. And what they had combined that with was that Christmas, Sal and I were trying to think of an interesting way to thank our volunteers for that trip and just for serving with us all year. And we decided to rent out a row of salon chairs to give them all pedicures. So we did that was the 2 stories that had combined. Now, I know everybody's going to be like, I'm going to volunteer for Jen if I get a pedicure. I think the safety team doubled after the first service. Those 2 stories combined, and it wasn't even true. And it tarnished my reputation. People actually believed that I had done that. The other time that I had been the middleman, and this is about halfway into my ministry career, and I learned this one the hard way. I had a husband come to me, and he said, hey, I would like you to help me with my marriage. My wife is shut down. We're really having a hard time, and I really want to save my marriage. Would you meet with her and talk with her? Absolutely. So she comes in, and she tells me story after story of like these moments where he is just like, he wants to know where she is and when. And he wants her to text him before she leaves work every day, the minute before she leaves work, and he's going to time her commute to make sure she's home on time. And so I just gave some advice, like, talking about like building trust in a relationship, approaching things with curiosity. And honestly, I was giving advice on how to navigate a controlling spouse, which is why he did not like my advice and why he came back to me, asking me questions. And as I shared with him about building trust and letting go, he realized something. He goes, she didn't tell you she was having an affair with her coworker, did she? No, she left that out. I was giving advice based on half a story. I wasn't intending to. I wasn't trying to give bad advice. I wasn't buying into anything. I thought I was getting the full story. I want to say that we rarely, and I would like to say never, get the full story. And not always because someone is trying to hide something. It's just that by the time it gets to you, it's one, only been going through their lens, their experience. And by the time it gets to you, it's just probably not the story. And even if the things, when we trust someone or we know someone well, it's even harder to discern because they can be telling you the truth, but it's only their part of the story. I have learned now that when I sit on the other side of someone, I will often ask, hey, I hear what you're telling me about that situation. You and that person have tension, but if I were to sit on the other side of that person, can you tell me what their story would be? It's not foolproof, but it gets me just a little closer to what actually happened. But our own biases and our own experiences come in, and we can rarely tell the story fully. Can you slow down enough to realize there are always multiple sides to a story? Always. And that doesn't mean everybody is like trying to lie. We just can only tell the story through our lens. So think before you speak, before you even share. And then cut out the middleman and try not to be the middleman. And then last, what if you just delayed a day? What if you just didn't tell everybody that stuff for just a day even? What if you didn't text or you didn't post or you didn't vent or you didn't process? You just waited a day before you sent that message, before you responded to that comment on social media. Because what oftentimes happens is when we hear a story or we take up an offense, there's a lot of emotion that comes with that. And if we just wait a day or two, maybe even 3, it will calm down and we will be seeing things way more clearly. But I know none of this is easy. Like I'm just saying, like, hey, just don't gossip. Just verify all your stories. Just think before you speak. Just recognize what's always going on in your heart. Just make sure you delay and take time. These are all simple things to say, and it's difficult to do. And we're not the first ones to face this challenge. Jesus' brother James, and a writer of the New Testament, he was writing to an early church this letter, and there's this chunk in this letter that I still read every now and then because I am always convicted by the fact that something that was written thousands of years ago is still something I struggle with. And he's having this same conversation we're having this morning with his church. And he starts the conversation, and I just want to read the whole thing to you because I just think it's really good. We all stumble in many ways. Anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect, able to keep their whole body in check. Because this is hard work. Thinking about what we say and the stories we share, this is hard. When we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Or take a ship. Although they are large and driven by strong winds, they are steered by a small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire. It's a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire. It is itself is set on fire by hell. James is really passionate right now. He's like, guys, this matters. When you are a talebearer or a peddler of rumors and you share stories that are not yours to tell, when you cause division rather than unity, when you tarnish someone's reputation rather than building them up, this does damage to them and to you. It matters. It's serious. Can we consider it? He keeps going. All kinds of animals and birds and reptiles and sea creatures have been tamed and have been tamed by mankind, but no human being can seem to tame the tongue. We have a hard time with this. With the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it we curse human beings who are made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth comes praise and cursing. Out of the same mouth comes praise and gossip. My brothers and sisters, this should not be. Can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring? My brothers and sisters, can a fig tree bear olives or a grapevine bear figs? Neither can a salt spring produce fresh water. James is saying this stuff matters. And if we say we follow Jesus, it matters even all the more. How is praise and gossip both coming out of our mouth? This is not how it should be. The Old Testament warns us, hey, talebearer, hey, peddler of rumors, be mindful of what stories you share and the information you share. And Jesus says, hey, all of this is coming from somewhere. You're going to give an account for every careless and empty word, and it's coming from somewhere. Now, I think practical tools like, hey, just practice thinking before you speak, slowing down enough. Hey, delay a day, maybe make a rule for yourself. Hey, cut out the middleman. These are all really, really good. But in my experience, I still can't do all that on my own. It's our responsibility to respond differently. But if I don't let God check what's going on inside me, I will probably just continue to share stories and information that I shouldn't. I want to look back at that list we looked at earlier. Is there something going on in you that is the reason you talk about others? It's your responsibility to respond differently. But have you invited God in to check why that just happens? Have you ever found yourself in a situation like, I shouldn't have said that. I said that thing again. I shared that story. I got in the middle of that situation. Would you consider inviting God to search your heart? It's your responsibility to respond differently, but it is wildly different when we choose to let Jesus be involved in that. When we walk in the love of Jesus, our words change. The stories we share change. Everything changes. But I think we think more clearly about who we talk to, what we say, and how we say it. I think when we take responsibility for our words in this way, we will see relationships transform. Actually, if you just even think about culturally, how we love to stir up drama. And actually, like news outlets care more about getting the story first than they do about getting it right sometimes. If we would operate differently, imagine what that would do. Imagine how your workplace would be transformed with no gossip. How those family phone calls would be different with no gossip. How our schools' hallways would be different with no gossip. It's so simple for me to say, so hard to do. But I think it's worth trying. Let me pray for us. Father, out of the overflow of our hearts, our mouths will speak, which gives us the opportunity to examine what's going on inside. That you would make that clear, that you would reveal that to us, that the next time we catch ourselves sharing a story that's not ours to share, reacting, assuming something, changing an opinion because of half a story that we've heard, that we would go directly to the source. That we would continue, like Jordan talked about last week, to be generous with our assumptions, to approach our conversations with curiosity. Help us to set a guard at our mouth and a gate at the door of our lips. Because we will give an account for every careless and empty word. Transform our speech by transforming our hearts. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.